guess what, y'all? I'm thinking of coming out to my family soon. I made a PowerPoint to explain things more in depth and stuff. And I had to talk to the social worker just to get some advice on that. So yeah, I missed quite a few lessons. And then also, I've just been really locked out of school anyway. So yeah, it's time to log back in. So I'm going to be teaching myself some math today. And in doing so, I'll probably teach you as well. Okay, so this is complex functions, and I already did the rest of my homework, but I'll do a review for me, and that can be a learning opportunity for you. Okay. Composite functions. A composite function is a complex function created by two or more functions. In other words, a way of combining two functions. So, you see this right here. We say g of f of g of x. And that does not mean f times g. It doesn't. It means f times g if that hole right there is closed and colored in. It's raining outside. I don't know if you can hear that, but rain is relaxing, so. And same thing goes for this one. G of f of x. These are not multiplication. So for this, it means we place the g function into the f function. And then for this, it means we place the f function into the g function. I tried to write a fancy G there. Okay. That's kind of complicated. We're not going to get into that. We're just going to do something simple here. So, where's my pencil? I stole my friend's pencil. I always do that. He just leaves it there. Okay, anyways. So, we can rewrite this as that. It's just, honestly, easier to understand this way. Because we place that function into that function. So we can see that this is f of x. So we're going to focus just on the f of x portion of this, okay? So if we look up here, we can see that f of x equals 5x minus 4. So 5x minus 4 goes there. And then because we're placing f of x into, so f of x. So this function goes inside that function. Because it's the same function, you see where this x is here? We're just going to put that same function into that. You see what I'm talking about? Okay, I'm hoping you do. So then all we have to do is distribute this. And that is 25x. And then that's negative 20. And then we just keep that minus 4. We combine these two. 25x minus 24. And then that's all the same stuff. I'm not going to do all those because it's all basically the same. Fairly easy to understand. But excluded values, we're going to learn that. Okay, so I'm not going to do these. I'm going to just come up with my own. So, imagine I did an equation, okay? Imagine I did the input, output, all that. So, imagine I'm left with, let's say, 5 over x minus 2. Okay? So, to find the excluded value, you have to make the denominator equal to 0. So, we're going to make x minus 2 equal to 0. Simple. Easy. So, this just becomes a regular old equation. Now, you do have to put a slash through that. Put a slash through that. So, then you just plus 2, x does not equal 2. Boom. It's simple. It's easy. And you can do this for a lot of them. But if there's no x in the denominator, there are no excluded values, okay? And also the reason why it cannot equal 2 in that last thing I just showed you is because then it would cancel. So if we're going to go back to that actually, just so I can show you. Okay, so the reason why it cannot equal 2 is because if x was equal to 2, then that would be 2 minus 2, and that would equal 0. And we can't have a 0 in the denominator. You get what I'm saying? Okay, then this is something I gotta do. I honestly forgot how to do it, so we're going to figure it out together. So that's the input, and that means it's the x value. So 3, go, and then 3 would just be at like 0 for the y. So I forgot how to write this. I think it's just 3, 0. I think that's just how you write it. Hold on. Give me a second. Actually, I think it's just 0. I think I just write 0. Okay, and then this one, it's 4. So we're gonna go here. 4. We stop at 2. 2. This is negative 4. So negative 4, go up until you hit a point, and then you land at 5. So that would be 5. 1, 0. 0. And then go up to 2. And then we're done. And then I was also absent for this lesson, but again, I filled out my notes using what was online. So, function operations. There are 4 different operations: add, subtract, multiply, divide. So, for addition, it's f of x plus g of x. And subtraction is f of x minus g of x. And it can be, the orders can be switched, by the way. Multiplication, f of x times g of x. Now, see how that's a closed dot? That means that you're times the 2 functions together. It doesn't mean that you're inputting it into the other function. You get what I'm saying? Division is f of x divided by g of x. Simple, easy. Things to remember: addition and multiplication are communicative. With division, we will sometimes have excluded values. We can use function operate, which we just talked about these, by the way. We just talked about that. We can use function operations with variables, expressions, or numbers. And I'm just going to do the homework. I'm going to skip the practice stuff. Okay. It's hard for me to, like, do my homework when the phone is, like, in the way, but I'm going to try my best. Okay, so find h times g. So that would be g, h, 1. So g of h of 1. So then we just put that each value. Wait. Oh my god. I messed up like right after I just told you guys. I didn't notice the close dot. But hey, we live and we learn. I'm learning along with you guys because I was absent. Okay, so then that would be n squared plus 4 plus 2n minus 3n plus 2. Okay, so n squared, and then we combine these. Negative n plus 6. Combine those. The teacher did not post any answer key, by the way, so I don't know if I'm doing these right, but I'm pretty sure I am. I'm confident in myself. Okay, so then this we would just do 4x minus 3 minus x cubed plus 2. So 4x minus 3 minus x cubed plus 2x. Okay, so then 4x plus 2x, 6x, and then, whoops, the x cubed go in front, and then minus 3. Boom. Okay. G divided by f. I'm a little, hold on. I think I'm doing it wrong. Cause like, oh, fuck. Okay, we're gonna like redo these, cause again, I didn't learn this in class. I'm teaching myself. Okay, we're gonna do this. Okay, so okay guys, after further evaluation, I figured it out. Because on learning along with you guys. That's why my bio says learn with me. Okay. So, input, because this is the x, and put that there, and put that there. So then that would be 16 minus 3, which is 13 minus, and that's 4 cubed plus 2 times 4. So then that's 64. So 64 plus 64 plus 8. So then, oh my god, I feel like I'm still doing this wrong. What the hell? No, I don't think I am. I'm not. I was tricky for a second. Okay, so 64 plus 8, and then that's 72. 13 minus 72 is negative 59. We have our answer. Yay! It's kind of like, I wouldn't say it's late, but like I'm getting tired. Okay, so that'd be 9 plus 2, 11. And then that would be plus. Ooh, I started tricky for a second. That would be plus 6 minus 4. 2. So that would be 11. Ooh. And then I don't think that simplifies. So. Okay, so this one is 30 plus 3, 30 plus. And then that's negative 40 plus 1. Negative 3. 9. And then that equals negative 6. Okay, and this one is x, so this will have an excluded value, I think. So this would be 3x minus 1 over x squared minus x. So we're going to make this equal to 0. And then we're going to add that x. Actually, well, I'm not entirely sure. Give me a sec. I unfortunately had to Google this one. I genuinely could not figure it out. So it's like you factor out this x, it's like this. X, hold on. This one plus 0. I think it's because this is property, so that, yeah, it's distributed property. Okay, yeah, that's what I thought. Because whenever you distribute it, you get x squared and then you get minus x. Okay, I was like tweaking for a sec. Okay, so then you wind up with x. Now remember, it doesn't equal. Okay, where's the pen? I feel like I should whisper. Negative a squared goes first. Then put so then negative 3a. Then you combine those, and then that is plus 2, and then boom, you're done. Now my teacher hates us. I'm just kidding, she loves us. But I'm not gonna record all this because I need to hurry up. Now we're gonna learn about the Vietnam War, okay? Lesson 8.8, the Vietnam War. 1955 to 1975. This was the second longest war after the Afghanistan one, okay? So why did the United States become involved in Vietnam affairs? Vietnam was a colony that belonged to the French. There was a large-scale effort to decolonize these parts of the world. Indochina and the French. The French leave Vietnam and can choose their own leaders. The U.S. was worried Vietnam would become communist, like China did. Ho Chi Minh takes up the fight against the French. He wants to reunite Vietnam under a communist government. The North is led by Ho Chi Minh for most of the war. South Vietnam was led by Dinh Diem. India and the British. Gandhi led a movement for independence using civil disobedience, breaking laws that were immoral. Many of these laws revolved around the British oppressing India's people. The former colony is divided into 3 countries: India, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. They form a non-aligned movement, NAM, to not be open to colonization, proxy wars, NATO, etc. Vietnam became a 2-front war for the government of South Vietnam, the Viet Cong, and the North American military. Early U.S. intervention. President Eisenhower and Kennedy sent military advisors. They both wanted to not go into another war. 1964, the U.S. formally enters the Vietnam War. The USS Maddox and the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution. The Maddox ship blows up. Lincoln Johnson became president and was committed to carrying on Kennedy's policies. He needed an excuse to join the war, and the Maddox blowing up gave him that excuse. Then, there's supposedly another incident, though the details were hazy, but it was claimed Vietnam ships attacked another U.S. ship. Operation Rolling Thunder. That plan was to hit the Vietnamese forces and hit them hard, end it quickly, then get back home. The U.S. believed they were superior in regards to artillery, troops, etc., but they underestimated the Vietnamese forces severely. The U.S. ended up having to fight the Soviet Union and China, which were backing the communist half of Vietnam, while the U.S. and Allied forces were backing the anti-communist half. The communist half was the North, anti-communist half was the South. Viet Cong and guerrilla warfare. They used guerrilla tactics and set traps, holes in the ground, leading to soldiers walking over them on accident and getting impaled to death by spikes. There were a lot of ambush tactics used by the Vietnamese soldiers. American soldiers would find tunnels made by Vietnamese soldiers and would use what's called a tunnel rats, which were soldiers who were smaller, and they went through those tunnels with weapons to take out the Viet Cong. Most don't come back. The war in Vietnam turns in 1968. The Tet Offensive. The Tet is an important holiday to the Vietnamese, and the Americans thought they wouldn't attack soldiers on that day. But they were wrong. 13 cities in Saigon were bombed. And I think that's what the video said, watching the video, but I was struggling to keep up. The My Lai massacre. Women, children, and men were slaughtered by U.S. soldiers. I wish I had more details on that, but oh my god, I was not able to get it down. The Living Room War. This was the most televised war thus far in history. Okay, actually, I'm gonna keep talking about that because I do remember some of it. So there's something called a Pinkville, which were places in Vietnam, which were considered very dangerous and covered in enemy soldiers. And the American soldiers were ordered to go there and take everyone out, and they slaughtered everyone, not just the enemies. And a lot of that was due to them just being so severely traumatized that they made very rash and horrible decisions. And this was reported to, I believe, the president and a few other important people in organizations who dealt with it. The details in my mind are a little bit fuzzy, but that's what I remember. Okay, the Living Room War. This was the most televised war so far in history for that time. There were journalists in the past for previous wars, but this war was on video, and and people could see it on the news. The news shows that soldiers didn't want to fight and morale was low, while the government acted like soldiers were winning and happy to fight. Military frustration. Fragging. I'm going to repeat that again. Fragging. I've seen a lot about it on TikTok recently, so if you're watching this, you might be interested in that, because I've been hearing a lot about it on TikTok. And I was wondering what it was, and then we learned about it in April. So if you're wondering what it is, I'm about to tell you. So, anyone with a college education automatically became an officer and told other soldiers what to do. So, say there was like a hill with enemy soldiers on it. This officer would tell the soldiers that they were in charge of that, okay, we're gonna go attack this hill tomorrow. And then the other soldiers would know that it's like a suicide mission. And then they'd be like, you know what? No, I'm not gonna do that. So then they would kill the officer by throwing a grenade under the sleeping bag while they slept. The draft. If you were drafted, you had to go to war. If you didn't, then you'd be arrested. This was a rich man's war and a poor man's battle. And honestly, that's what all wars are. Why did the United States lose support for the Vietnam War? President Johnson had no idea what victory looked like and had no idea how to win. There were repeated escalations. Strategies weren't changed, and instead, drafts just kept going. More boots on the ground. No strategy changes whatsoever. And President Johnson ends up not running for re-election. People are, of course, mad because he escalated the war so much and then just leaves while the soldiers can't. Soldiers are stuck on the battlefield, and he's just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm gonna leave office. How did the Vietnam War impact Americans? Nixon and Vietnamization. In 1968, Vietnamization equals peace with honor, but he doesn't actually know what peace with honor looks like. But people vote for him because they just want someone with a plan. Invasion of Cambodia in 1970. I don't have details on that, but you can look it up. Please do. War Powers Resolution in 1973. This canceled out the Gulf of Tonkin Resolution, which originally allowed the president to do whatever to win. But this Wars Power Resolution reigned in the president's power. In 1975, the U.S. withdrawals, and this led to Saigon being the last holdout in the war, which then fell. The entire peninsula of Vietnam was reunited, but under a communist government. Anyone who didn't want to live under the communist government had to get the hell out. People fled and looted everything for supplies. The U.S. takes a lot of refugees to safety, and Vietnamese parents handed their children over to soldiers so that their children could live better lives away from the communist government. The United States did not leave with peace and honor. There was a distrust in government and the president. People took their frustration out on soldiers. Soldiers are horribly traumatized, and there wasn't much psychological care for them. Social divisions. So those against the war were doves, and those in support were hawks. There were generational gaps. World War II soldiers were like, I want to help my country, and I was proud to do it. But the soldiers from Vietnam were like, I didn't have a choice. You just do it and be proud. I didn't want this. Race. Colleges wouldn't admit black students, and black men were much more likely to be drafted than white men. Muhammad Ali chose not to sign up for the selective service after he discovered most people drafted were black. Lesson 8.9, The Great Society. What led to the rise of modern American liberal ideology in American politics during the early 1960s? Modern American liberalism is the idea of creating programs to help Americans. FDR was the first president to do this with alphabet agencies and then his Four Freedoms, which became the basis of modern American liberalism. The idea is that government should intervene in the economy in times of crisis and create a limited welfare state. Welfare is a series of specific programs in which the government examples of this are Social Security and welfare and Medicaid, Medicare, food stamps. The goals were to prevent economic inequality, so to try to alleviate those who have nothing. 1960s, there's two liberal presidents, JFK and LBJ. The New Frontier was JFK's program, and the Great Society was LBJ's program. The government should always intervene in society and create social justice was the idea of this, and they also want to prevent social inequality and invest in education and programs like Head Start. Liberalism reignites. Michael Harrington and the Other America. He says 25% of Americans live in poverty. Poverty and racism. Many people in poverty were black. And Lyndon Johnson, LBJ, declares a war on poverty but doesn't succeed. The lineup of the 1960s, which was a very significant election because it could be watched on television, and the votes were very close. Kennedy won, but not by much. If Nixon had won, it's likely there wouldn't be modern liberalism today. In the first debate televised, Kennedy wore a suit which stood out against the background, and Nixon wore a suit that didn't. He also looked exhausted and shifty due to a knee injury, and he was recovering from the flu. Studies show that this first debate influenced so many people to vote for Kennedy, and the visual aspect of it played a major role too. The New Frontier. JFK proposes a higher minimum wage. Also, did you know that federal minimum wage is $7.50? That's insane. That's insane. And then, not to mention that, a lot of these states that have that as their minimum wage are conservative. Liberal states tend to have the minimum wage, like the state minimum wage, set higher. And the New Frontier also aims to combat poverty, racism, and inequality while advancing education and space exploration. Foreign agenda aimed to combat communism and assert U.S. global leadership through active, flexible diplomacy, technical assistance, and economic aid to other countries. Key initiatives included the Peace Corps. Kennedy was young and didn't know many people in Congress. He found it hard to work with people because they didn't trust him due to his younger age. He created the Peace Corps, but his civil rights bill wasn't passed, nor was his proposal for a higher minimum wage. The Kennedy assassination in 1963. He was riding in a convertible, and someone with a home video camera was recording and got footage of it. It's called the Zapruder footage, and this is the only footage of it. People didn't see this footage for years. Lyndon Johnson, the vice president, became president when the assassination occurred. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court was in charge of an investigation known as the Warren Commission. They came to the conclusion that there was one assassin, so just one gunman. And then my teacher said that within the hour, I don't know how accurate that is. I don't think that's accurate. But within the hour, apparently, Lee Harvey Oswald was arrested and then killed by a mob leader. And he had been a trained sniper who was in a communist country for a bit. Pretty sure it was the Soviet Union. LBJ and the Great Society. Civil rights. So this outlawed discrimination based on race, religion, gender, and nationality. Poverty. Food stamp sales and programs and urban renewal. Medicare, Medicaid. And then the 24th Amendment abolished the poll tax. Then it opened up borders from restrictive 1920s immigration policies. Education included Head Start, higher education, free school breakfast, and PBS, and I think NPR as well. Environment includes the Air Quality Act and Water Quality Act, and there were 200 laws passed. How did the Johnson administration's goals for the Great Society change the role of the federal government? Its impact. Poverty had decreased in programs, and those programs are still in place today. Head Start still exists. But its failures, shortcomings, didn't get rid of poverty altogether, and programs were expensive. Expansion of the federal government. So 200 laws were passed, as I just said, and many programs were put into place. Some people thought the government was doing too much and going too far. Americans' expectations changed, though. People started thinking the government should help citizens. And then the decline. The Vietnam War had to fund. Oh my gosh. The Vietnam War made it hard to fund the ending poverty and the Vietnam War, so it was like hard to fund both. Then the election of Ronald Reagan in 1980. Liberalism crashes and conservatism rised. Ronald Reagan began modern conservatism, which still exists today. Wanting people to help them, the idea is wanting people to help themselves. Thinking programs are too expensive and the government shouldn't do that much to help people. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed learning. I hope that you are having a good morning, evening, or night, and I hope you're doing well. And if you're not doing well, I hope you feel better.